4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right.
Hey, I'm Irish Dave and welcome to this week's Experience Michiana. I'm very excited for this episode because we get to hear all about the Blueberry Festival and I get to talk to a fellow pilot. We're also going to talk to WNIT producers about a new documentary about the significance of the St. Joseph River, which I'm very excited about that too. But first, there's a lot of local talent here in our community, as you already know, and the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra is once again holding Who's Your Star? And Courtney went out and about to find more information about that.
Now, you're very likely familiar with some of those big audition shows like American Idol, America's Got Talent, but did you know we have one here locally in Michiana, the Who's Your Star, and it's coming up very soon. I have with us today Tim King, who's the executive director for the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra, as well as Alistair, who is part of the South End Symphony Orchestra. And you guys have been doing the Who's Your Star for a number of years now.
That's right, Courtney. This is the 16th year that we've had Who's Your Star. We had no idea it was going to last this long, but the talent just keeps coming.
Yeah, and I say that, year after year, especially when families are coming to the event, the children get exposed to that, and you have both a youth division and an adult division.
We do. We have two divisions, so we have a youth category that's 17 years old and younger, and an adult category that is 18 years and over. And a couple of years ago, I think, Alistair, we had one that was 64. That was one of the finalists. They did a beautiful job.
That's amazing. And so how many are there involved in this? There's an audition process that already happens?
That is correct. Every year in March, we have auditions for it. Anywhere from 60 to 90 people come in and audition for this. And then we have a set of judges that choose the 10 finalists in March. And then the music staff with the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra then gets with each finalist and determines a song that would probably showcase them the best with the orchestra and the public. And then we start rehearsals. We've already had two rehearsals with the finalists and a small ensemble. And then starting September the 9th, on Thursday night, that's when our conductor, Alistair Willis, comes in and starts working with the finalists in the orchestra. And then he gets 3 rehearsals with them before we do the program the night of the 11th.
And the event is happening on September 11th, right?
That is correct.
7 o'clock. And you said people can get tickets online?
That's true. They can go to our website, which is very simple. It's just LCSO for LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra, lcso.net. There's a Who's Your Star tab. They just go to the Who's Your Star tab, and we have 2 options this year. You can come to the live event, which is, like I said, September the 11th at 7 p.m. at the Civic Auditorium in LaPorte, or you can opt to get the ticket for the virtual event, which you'll be able to see online. But in both cases, you'll be able to vote for your favorite youth and adult finalists.
And you've been part of this for a few years now as well, too.
This will be my 4th Who's Your Star, and I got to tell you, it is such fun. It's such an honor to be a part of this. And as you've just heard, this is one well-organized, well-oiled event, which is just a pleasure to be part of. I mean, there's so much that goes behind the scenes to get it ready, and I feel so lucky I come in just at the end to put it all together, to look at the final cake as it's ready to be served, and to work with all the talent is just wonderful.
Now, what kind of variety will we expect this year?
Yes, this is also a concert, not just a talent show, but talent in itself is so attractive and so inspiring. We have songs that are of all different kinds of varieties. So we have a country song, we have a rock song, we have songs from musical theater, we have current songs by current artists. And for me, the variety is what makes it really interesting. I don't know how they do it, how they find such a fantastic, complete program which has something for everyone.
That's so wonderful. And there's judges that are taking part in this?
That's right. We have what we call our celebrity judges, and actually one of our judges is a past winner this year that came back to judge. So he knows exactly how they feel and what they're doing.
That kind of thing. That's wonderful. Now, Alistair, you're with the South End Symphony Orchestra, but you're guest conducting at the LaPorte County Symphony event here for the Who's Your Star. What does it mean for the community to support the additional communities throughout Michiana?
Music is global, and we're all part of a global family. To have a chance to share my love of music with the next county over, so close to what we're doing here in South Bend, is very special. And some of my musicians here in the South Bend Symphony Orchestra play in the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra.
great.
So there's a connection already there. As you heard, two of our soloists are also, our finalists are also from South Bend. But music connects us all. And it's important to see the bigger picture of that, not just within each community. And it's just so important.
Yeah, it is. And I can tell you, I'm a big fan of the South Bend Symphony Orchestra. I come over here and I have seen several concerts with
Sure.
Alistair conducting. I completely agree. Music is music. It's the international language.
Music is global. I love that. And so people can get their tickets online, but they can also check it virtually, which I think is so important right now.
Right.
Especially that people still have the
Right.
option. But tell us a little bit more about what it takes to be a Hoosier Star.
Well, it takes a little fortitude. You know, anyone that has to audition, that's pretty tough. And I would say that to sing in front of an orchestra is not the easiest thing to do. You better be prepared for that. And in almost all of these cases, this will be the first time that any of these people have sung with an orchestra, in front of an orchestra.
Okay.
And especially for the youth, who always impress me. I think we have everything from like 14 years old to 17 years old
Okay.
in the youth. And when you think of a 14-year-old getting up there, poised, singing with an orchestra, it blows my mind when that happens. But they do it. And Alistair is so great about it because he's been on stage so much, and he has such a way of making them feel comfortable
Great.
before they even start to sing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we keep bringing him back.
Well,
He's
I'm
so
sure
good
you're
at
doing a
that.
great
He really
job.
is so good at that. And he's a true leader. I mean, he knows every piece down, and he makes the orchestra feel good about what they're doing, and he puts on just a tremendous performance for everyone.
My job is to support the singers, to make
help
them
showcase them.
sound as best as they can. But what makes a Hoosier Star? Everything that Tim said, and something else. Each of these candidates have something beyond just their voice. It's a stage presence.
that's
Call it
true.
what you will. And it's who's going to come on the night with that extra spark that's going to shine slightly brighter on the stage presence. You know it when you see it, and nothing can beat the live experience of feeling that and seeing that in concert.
I love that. And people can vote too. So you get a vote
That's
when you attend
true.
and when you're virtual too.
That's correct. So, of course, we want everybody to come to the live event.
Absolutely.
And I will tell, for people that are not familiar with it, the Civic Auditorium is really sort of a small arena. So it's actually a very large space.
And we're in front of the Morris right now,
Right.
but this is happening in LaPorte.
This is happening in
Okay.
LaPorte at the Civic Auditorium, which is about an 1,800 seat space. But it's almost like like I said, it's a small arena is what it is. So it's a really large place. So if people worried about, distancing and things like that, we've made it work
Okay,
for
great.
that. Now,
That's
we
good
are
to
going to
know.
require masks for
Okay.
everyone upon entrance.
Okay.
Once you get to your seat, if you want to take your mask off and you're with your pod, your people, then
Sure.
you can take the mask off. But just to let people know, we are going to be requiring masks to enter the building. But you're right, the voting is really the big deal here because
That's how we
whoever
decide
gets the
who the
most
Hoosier
votes
Star
is
is.
the one who wins.
Yeah.
Now the judges do have 25% of the vote,
Okay.
as they should have a little bit more percentage than everybody else because they're the pros doing this.
Yeah.
But we're taking it all electronic this year. We're using a QR code with your smartphone.
Okay.
So we'll have the QR codes in the program, so everyone that's at the live event can put their smartphone on the QR code, and then all the finalists will come up, and you'll choose which one you want.
Great.
The same thing will happen with the virtual. The QR code will be on the screen. Just take your phone, put it on the screen. The same thing will happen, and you'll put it up. We used to have these huge, Alistair used to have these huge boxes with 5 finalists, and you had to put a little piece of paper in every one.
Oh, now it's all
It took
electronic.
forever,
Much
We're
simpler.
finally coming into the 21st century, but we're going to do it
You'll
this
have the
year.
results that night.
Oh, we'll have we do have the results at night, but they're going to be a lot quicker this time than they were
good.
before. Yeah.
Good. Well, thanks so much for telling us a bit more about it. This is really exciting. And again, you said this is the 16th year
16th
that
year.
the Hoosier Star is happening, and you have contestants from all over
We
Indiana.
do. We had 21 different communities that were represented in the auditions.
Wow.
We have 6 different communities that are represented in the finals, and 2 of them are from South Bend.
That's amazing.
Yep.
How exciting. Well, thank you so much. Good luck with your event, and
Thank you.
hope you can make it out. You can find more information on our website as well as on the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra site.
Well, Patricia and Tom, so glad that you guys could be with us. I'm so excited about this documentary. There's been so much buzz about it in our community. So I have to ask you, because there's so much history surrounding the St. Joseph River, when you were asked to do this project, what were your initial thoughts about it?
When we were first asked about the project, my initial thoughts were excitement. It sounded like a fun project to be a part of. Pat, myself, and two other producers, Brian Callies and Jeff Manis, had worked on a project about the Kankakee River. And it just seemed kind of like a nice natural progression to, be a part of the story of the river that is only separated by, just a short little stretch of land. So we were very excited.
And Patricia, what was fun about it?
Oh, I think it's always fun to meet new people, and just meeting the people and seeing the river through their eyes, how it affected them and their lives and their children. And so that was the most fun for me, was seeing the river through other people's eyes.
Now, this is a river that has hundreds and thousands of years of history. It's an hour-long documentary. So where do you begin, and what do you decide really needs to be in this story?
With something like this, I think deciding what goes into the documentary is by far the hardest part of the whole project. There's so many great stories that we weren't able to fit into an hour.
Tom, can you share one of those stories with us?
Absolutely. I think the story of Fort St. Joseph is, it was this critical point in the entire, North American continent. And, from an outsider looking in, you had no idea that this little town of Niles, Michigan had such historic significance. So that was really interesting to me.
And Patricia, what about you?
Well, I think this, like with Tom, it was kind of overwhelming, the river is over 200 miles long, and all these little towns around it have their own little unique history and stories. So it was a lot to wrap your head around. And when we did, there were several times during the whole production that we thought, is this an hour-long documentary? Is this a series? How should we do this? But we thought it was best served by doing kind of like the Cliff Notes, a strong 1 hour that covers the entire history, and then let each community celebrate the St. Joe around their own local history, which was the vision of Greg Gitze, to celebrate St. Joe. So that's what we did. And I think when we initially go in, you look for what are the wow factors, what makes you really excited about this story. And there were so many of them. The Native American history was just amazing, and how the Potawatomi came here because they had a vision that they would go west until they found, of the place where food grew on the water. And that's what they found here in the St. Joe Valley, the wild rice. So that was exciting. There were stories I like to bring stories to life. So I like all the little details, and go back and read through some of the old history, and you found out, how people transported products down the river, and there were polemen, and some people who lived along the river would hear these polemen all night long going back, forward, just the sounds and the sights that you hear that bring the river to life. We found a unique story about a poleman who was called the Michigan Giant because he was 6'9", and he went to protect his fellow poleman because a bartender in South Bend tried to steal their money. So it's a lot of little fun stories along the way, as well as, the really wow factor, I think, is the strategic location of the river, because it was here that there was this portage that basically could connect a water trail all the way down to the Mississippi River. And so that was huge. And that's why it was kind of a highly contested area as well.
You had mentioned the communities celebrating the St. Joe, which is something that we had an opportunity to do this summer in conjunction with the documentary. A lot of the communities along the river had different events and activities for the community. And there are even watch parties that are going on when the documentary airs. How does that make you feel to know that this river means so much to this community?
No, it's always nice to have a project like this seen by people. And it was such a great, I think Greg Gitze had really saw that this river was special to not just South Bend and, the folks in Indiana, but from the headwaters all the way to where it empties out into Lake Michigan. So I think he kind of had a finger on the pulse in terms of, how special of a treasure this really is. So it's just been a great feeling to see that people are starting to embrace the documentary, and we hope that we kind of did this great, natural treasure justice with the film.
Patricia, what do you hope people will take away from the documentary?
I hope they will take away from it the story of both, the cultural story of the people who have lived along the river and how they used the river, and also that the river is something we need to take care of and protect, so that it'll be here for future generations.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that was actually my last question. From time to time on Experience Michiana, Krista Bailey talks about the importance of sustainability and taking care of the environment. And I love the title of the documentary, Then, Now, and Always. And so I'd like to pose that question, maybe a little more in depth to each of you. What can our community do to ensure that there's a then, there's a now, but that there will be an always?
There are organizations called Friends of the St. Joe River that people can join. There's the head of the St. Joe River Basin. He's also leads the Friends of the St. Joe is Matt Mearsman. And he's a very avid river advocate. He's a kayaker, and he takes care of the river. And I think there's a lot of educational things out there that he could help people with, and they could join the Friends of the St. Joe. But not only that, smaller, if you see the documentary, you'll see how just one person starting to say, hey, I don't want those tires and that junk in our river, went out and started cleaning it up. And pretty soon, 5 others were helping them. And then they cleaned up the whole river and had kayak festivals. So I think that's part of what they can do. Getting out on the river, safely, of course, because, the river has its challenges. But if you do kayak, when you enjoy the river, when you connect to it, fishing, with your kids, but just taking care of it. So join the Friends of the St. Joe, learn more about your river, and learn how you can take care of it.
It won't necessarily always be there if we don't take care of it. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me in the documentary is learning how the fish species had been so impacted during the later part of the 19th century and the early 20th century, and what an incredible resurgence they've made because sewage treatment plants have cleaned the river up, and people are taking care of it better. And now there's a pretty good, vibrant ecosystem of aquatic life living in the river. There's a wonderful aquatic biologist who works with, I believe, the city of Elkhart and South Bend by the name of Dara Deegan. And he does a great job. He's always out with school groups and, showing fish, taking them out of the river, showing them the school groups. And something like that is just a wonderful way to connect people to the river. So, it's searching out these opportunities to connect with the river. And I think that is a great way that the next generation can begin to embrace it.
Well, thank you both for reminding us of what a beautiful and important treasure that we have here in our community. Again, this will be airing on Thursday, September 9th on WNIT at 8 p.m. And let's take a quick peek, a sneak peek at Then, Now, and Always, the St. Joseph River story. Thank you both.
Thank you.
The St. Joseph River has long provided for the people who call its banks home.
And in the Anishinaabe culture, in the Potawatomi culture, we say that water is medicine, water is life, and we believe in honoring the spirit of that water.
When you're beside the river, you have what you need to sustain life.
From furs to fruit, the bounty of the St. Joseph Valley has always attracted life.
The river's what drew us here. If it wasn't here, we wouldn't be here, including the animals and trees and plants.
And thanks to a fate of geology, the St. Joseph served as a critical gateway to the continent.
The portage path that connected the St. Joe with the Kankakee River. You can traverse a third of the United States just by using that 5-mile path. It just happened to be here.
That connection inspired the establishment of a fort on the river's edge that would feel the effects of conflict between global powers. Ultimately, it would be the power of the river itself that shaped its future, as it powered the industries that gave rise to the cities and towns of today.
Every town along that river is inexorably linked to the river. Everything about that town started off because it was on that river.
But as the river gave birth to new communities, the stream began to suffer.
So it was viewed as a way to get rid of the things that we don't want, and eventually that became the toxics that were used in the production process.
But communities that once turned their backs to the river are now embracing it.
Something snapped and changed, and it was, this is part of what makes our community special.
The trend is moving in a direction of understanding that we need to live in concert with all of creation. These resources that nature has to offer doesn't belong to us, it belongs to our children and their children, because they're the ones that are going to need it tomorrow.
Past generations have been well served by the St. Joseph. What does the future have in store for this river and its people?
So Jim, we're talking about the Blueberry Festival that's coming up soon, and you are a hot air balloon pilot.
I am.
And what is the role of the hot air balloons at the Blueberry Festival coming up?
Well, we have a balloon competition, for one thing, but also I think what the Blueberry Festival is looking for is the balloon glow.
So, yeah.
Which is, of course, we do it Sunday night before the fireworks. You wait until it gets dark, stand up the balloons. We have a special burner that throws pure white light.
Nice.
And you light them up like, it's like stained glass windows with a light shining through them.
It's wonderful. As somebody who's a pilot, I know we've been talking a lot about that as well. How did you get into hot air balloons?
Actually, I had a airplane rating first.
Yeah.
And my son was about 6 years old, and we were driving through the countryside, and he said, "Balloon, balloon." And we followed it until it landed. It turned out to be somebody I went to ground school with.
Oh, nice.
So at that point, between my son and having been a friend, we'd started crewing for him.
Nice.
Crewed for a few years, and then he quit flying, so I said, I can't go be without. So I bought a balloon and got my license.
So you started off by crewing for somebody else, and I
Absolutely.
know that you're looking for people to help out with your crew,
yeah.
right? So tell us about that for anyone watching that's
Well,
interested.
You know, a lot of people think that crew is just those people who lug it out of the trailer and put it together, but really they're your safety. If you inflate a balloon, a lot of the fabric is on the ground. You do a pre-flight, but then it's blowing up and you can't see all of that.
Yeah.
So you want your crew to look at it for you. They're going to be standing where they can see inside the balloon. You want them looking for things you might not see.
Yeah.
After you get off the ground, when you're about to land, you want them looking for obstacles at the point where you're going to land.
So for anyone that does want to just turn up and volunteer, is there any requirements? Like how strong do they have to be?
You have to be able to lift about 50 pounds.
Okay.
And if you don't have any experience, there'll be a pilot, and they almost always bring a crew chief.
Yeah, so they can help you out.
It's kind of, they'll teach you.
Yeah, of course. If you're willing to learn, they're willing to show you.
They're willing to teach.
Literally show you the ropes.
Yeah.
I love it. I have heard in the aviation community that the hardest thing about flying balloons is trying to find a crew that wants to be with you. So is this specifically just for the Blueberry Festival, or is this overall?
Probably it's mostly for the Blueberry Festival.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do much flying anymore. I'm looking more to instruct.
Okay.
And but the pilots are scattered from all over everywhere. Now, if they were local, it would be forever.
Mm-hmm.
If you find a good one,
yeah,
you keep him.
So anyone watching that wants to sign up as a crew member for the Blueberry Festival, how do they do it? Like, where do they go?
Just show up and tell them what you are, and they'll take you back to us.
Right, so it's that easy. You don't have to do anything in advance. Just turn up to the Blueberry Festival.
Well, we'd like them to.
Okay.
But they never do. So
So there's no point in being optimistic this year.
I've given up. I call it magic.
Okay, and for anyone that is disciplined and does want to in advance, is there a way to do that online to sign up as a volunteer, or what would be the best way in advance?
Probably to get a hold of me through the email.
Okay.
It's jkunze1952@gmail.
Okay. 1952?
1952.
Is that the year your balloon was born?
No.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, so yeah, it looks like it's going to be a great event. The Blueberry Festival, of course, is such a huge festival. I mean, it's one of the biggest in the country.
It is indeed. It's a huge festival.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was telling you before, this balloon event is the second largest in the country.
Yep.
In terms of people coming out to see it.
Yeah, and the balloons play a big role in the festivities.
Very big role in it. Now, there are balloon festivals with more balloons than ours, but...
Can people actually go on a balloon ride during the festival? How does that work, or can they go up, or...?
We're going to have some tethered rides.
Okay.
But we sell sponsorships for the balloons.
Nice.
So the sponsor brings in the balloon, and they get the rides.
Okay,
so
cool.
They're not for sale.
Okay, awesome.
It's an amazing ride if you've ever been around a balloon.
Yeah.
Because turbulence.
Mm-hmm.
You never feel turbulence in a balloon. You float through it.
Nice.
It's just
smooth air all the time.
Smooth air. You can talk to somebody on the ground from 1,000 feet.
I think it's a beautiful way to see the countryside.
It's fantastic, and the people you meet when you land.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you can land anywhere as long as you have permission.
I can land. Well, I can land on a county road if there's no wires on it.
Yeah. No, it's really cool.
So yeah.
All right, well, Jim, thank you so much. Can I come up in a hot air balloon? Actually, can we come up and film it sometime? Can we do that?
Come on up and have some fun.
You can instruct me on how to do it.
I can try that.
I appreciate it, and I hope lots of people sign up, help you out with crew at the Blueberry Festival, and I hope it's a very safe and happy festival.
We're looking forward to it.
Look, I know that finding crew for the balloons is really difficult for Jim and people like him who really love hot air ballooning. So if you really are interested in that, make sure you find out more information. There's so much to experience across Michiana. Don't forget, you can always use the hashtag #ExperienceMichiana, and we will find your suggestions for things that we can do out and about in this community. You might sit at home and say there's nothing to do, but every week we show you that there's lots to do. Until next week on Experience Michiana, that's it for me, Irish Dave.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.